Hello there, and welcome back to the Music Career Show. Today's guest is an all-American singer, songwriter, and guitarist, and I'm really looking forward to this one, as both him and I have very similar taste in music and guitars, as it seems. Me and him were having a quick chat before we started recording, and we are very much aligned in our music taste and our taste in guitars and our taste in just life in general. It's all good. So, and to top that all off, and I can't wait to speak about this as well, he has opened and played gigs alongside some of my absolute musical heroes. So it is my pleasure to speak today with Ben Cote. Ben, how in the hell are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing?
I'm doing absolutely all the better now for having spoke to you today. I'm delighted that we finally got this in the calendar and we're doing it. Ben, for those out there that maybe haven't heard of you just yet, why don't you introduce yourself to the lovely people and tell them who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. My name is Ben Cote. I'm a guitar player, and I consider myself a guitar player first, and then the singer-songwriter second. But that's just me. Let's see. I play all around the United States, and I also my day job is I work for Berklee College of Music in Boston for the guitar department there, and I guess I'm technically under the category of an Instagram guitar player or TikTok guitar player, which isn't something that I was necessarily aiming for, but I'm definitely
no, it's definitely not the thing that. Do you know what I mean? When you're a kid, what would you like to be when you grow up? I'd like to be a TikTok guitar player. It's not really a thing just yet, but like, listen, you're doing a good job of it. You're doing a very good job of it. That's so cool. And the fact that you work for Berklee, I don't know if there is a bigger flex in the musical world that you actually work for Berklee. That's what when you sent me your email address there yesterday or the day before, I was like, yes, this guy knows his shit. So
I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've gotten.
Well, you're very humble, I have to say. Usually people in your position are kind of like, they know exactly what to say about themselves. They're like, oh, I've done this, I've done that. And you're just like, oh, I play guitar. I like playing guitar. Playing guitar is fun. That's cool, man. That's so cool. I'm so into that. So let's reverse then and speak about that then. So how did you get into music in the first place? Where did it all start for you?
I was probably maybe 11, 12 years old, and I discovered my dad's Van Halen CDs. It was 5150 in 1984. And that kind of got me into music and really, not just music, but rock and roll specifically. And then, I kind of really just kind of did the deep dive, and I wasn't playing guitar yet at that point. I was just kind of immersing myself in just the listen, being a music fan, first and foremost. And then, years after that, honestly, I figured I'd learn how to play, maybe 3 or 4 chords on a guitar, so I could just do a couple acoustic guitar chords, meet girls. And, I guess it kind of had the opposite effect once I got into the high school age, because instead of going out there and meeting girls, I was just in my room practicing. I kind of got bitten by the bug to play guitar. That was originally the the first goal. But yeah, once I started playing, for me, that was just such a, at the time, it was just a great kind of escape and just an expression. It was like, 'cause I mean, I was never, that good at sports or anything like that. So it was kind of like an area where I felt like I had control, and I just felt really comfortable and at home with it. Not that it necessarily came naturally to me, but I found myself enjoying it so much that I'd be practicing, playing 6-7 hours a day, but it didn't really feel like I was just practicing 6 or 7 hours a day. I was just, enjoying it. And then,
we're so similar, mate. We are literally so similar. I'm useless to sports. The only thing I was ever any good at was playing guitar, and I started playing guitar because of Van Halen as well. Absolutely. 5150 is my favorite album of all time, and Dreams is the best song that has ever been written ever.
Oh, Van Hagar? So Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth?
I'm in the very much minority camp of Van Hagar.
Yeah, me too. I find that a lot of times it's other musicians. I mean, I love Roth. I'm not saying that, like, I'm not putting that era down, but for me, I've always been a Sammy Hagar guy as well, and I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Well, do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? Is that you and me are I'm 30. We're roughly the same age, I would say. Are we?
Probably, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Probably.
I'm still in my 20s, but yeah,
You're still in your
I'm
20s.
around.
Okay, Grant. Grant. Well,
I'm
well,
in
well
flat.
look, we're sort of the same era. We're sort of the same era, right? And
Oh,
do
yeah.
you remember the Power Rangers movie? Like the original one from 1995?
No, I don't. I know that Dreams was in the end credits.
Well, I loved that movie as a kid. I absolutely loved it. I still love it as a 30-year-old. I think it's great. But yeah, Dreams was at the very, very end, and it was all fireworks and stuff. And I always loved Sammy Hagar's voice, but I didn't realize that was Van Halen until I was about 20. That's extreme. No, until a good bit later in life, we'll call it. So I literally loved Van Halen. So that movie came out when I was 3. So I would have seen that when I was like 3 or 4. So I've literally loved Van Halen from then, because that was just, in my mind, that was what a rock singer sounded like. That it sounded like Sammy Hagar. That was my very, very first experience really of really attaching myself or feeling an attachment with a song. So when I found Sammy Hagar, I was like, oh, and the whole Van Hagar thing. It was just like I love all Sammy's solo work. I love all the Montrose stuff. I just can't get enough. So yeah,
That's really funny because I guess I kind of consider myself, I was a Sammy Hagar fan first, because when I was really little, in Back to the Future 2, right, when Marty goes back to like the alternate 1985 and the song's playing, I Can't Drive 85. That was the first time I'd heard Sammy Hagar, and for me, that was rock and roll. So I got into Sammy Hagar. I was probably, roughly 10, 11. And
class.
then when I discovered, I was actually, I remember my dad and I had just dropped off one of my friends at his house because he was like visiting, hanging out at my house. And then
Mm-hmm.
my dad and I, we were kids, so my dad dropped him off, and I was so on the way back home, my dad was listening to 5150 in the
Yeah,
car, and I remember telling my dad, I said, "Who's this?" And my dad's like, "Oh, this is Van Halen." I
yeah,
said, "Boy," I said, "Van Halen sounds a lot like Sammy Hagar." And my dad said, "Well, that is Sammy Hagar." And my mind was blown because at the time I just could not comprehend. I'm like, "Well, why is the band named Van Halen if he's not the singer?"
yeah,
My dad, he's like, "Well, Eddie, but it's the two brothers, Alex and Eddie." And my dad said, "Eddie, back then was the greatest guitar player of his era," and then saying all
yeah,
that. But at the time, I could not comprehend. I'm like, "Well, why is it named after the guitar player when he's not singing?" Which is the
yeah.
irony in that, because
I know.
later on in the
Yeah, I totally had the exact same thing, like the exact same thing, because you think of all these, like you think of like Eric Clapton. Do you know what I mean? He's a guitar player, but he sings. Jimi Hendrix, he sings. He's the front person.
Yeah.
Whereas Yngwie Malmsteen isn't necessarily the front man. Do you know what I mean? But it's kind of, yeah.
Oh,
I had all of this. So I'm glad I wasn't the only one. I was going to say you've got a grand little connection. Is that Diver Down and Fair Warning and Van Halen 1 just behind you to your left?
Yes, actually, so the Fair Warning, I don't know where my uncle got it, but my uncle got me. It's signed by all 4 members. Michael, Dave, and Alex and Eddie. He got that for me years ago, so that's hung up there. And then my wife for Christmas got me Diver Down and Van Halen 1. So I figured I'd put them all up there.
Amazing. This episode of the podcast is literally just going to be called Van Halen is fucking class or something like that. If we ever get talking about anything else, it'll be a miracle. But yeah, cool. So anyway, look, you got started Van Halen or class. You started playing guitar and that was obviously going well. Was there ever a chance of you not being a musician when you grew up, or was what was happening there?
Yeah, I think there were several. Well, so when I was a kid, when I was little, I always wanted to be. Well, I wanted to be 2 things. My 2 dream jobs were either being a basketball player,
Okay.
but I didn't get the height gene. I always tell people, it's like, "Oh, I look like I'm 6'2" on stage," but and I guess I didn't get the height gene, so that didn't really work out.
Yeah.
But then when I was a kid too, I always have loved ancient history, so I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Oh,
Just 'cause I
cool.
love, I love history and all that. But once I started playing guitar, it just kind of there was no looking back. I think the one time that kind of was like the one moment of my life where I almost kind of didn't go for it, as a career. Before I went to Berkeley, so I graduated high school, and I applied to only two schools because but my parents are incredibly supportive. I'm very very blessed with amazing parents. They're very
Yeah.
supportive for anything I've needed. But they said, you're going to college. 'Cause at the time, I just wanted to, go out on the road, like old school. And my parents were like,
Yeah.
no, like you're gonna go to college. So I applied to Berkeley and I applied to Musicians Institute out in Hollywood, California.
Yeah.
And I got accepted to both. But at the time, being like 17, 18, you know,
Yeah.
you see Hollywood and then you see Boston, and I'm from Boston, so it's like, well, so I'm like, I want to go. Hollywood seemed like a better fit for me at the time. So I deferred my acceptance for a year with
Uh-huh.
Berkeley. I'm like, just in case. And I went out to Hollywood, and I stayed out there for a semester. And there's a lot of great teachers there. I mean, being in Hollywood was like going to, it was like the Mecca, for
Yeah.
like, 8 o'clock, because like, you're looking, it's like, all right, there's the Whiskey A Go Go, there's the Rainbow Lounge,
Ah.
there's the Viper, like all these just
Yeah.
it's class places. Um, but it just at the time, the school I think wasn't quite the right fit for me. What I wanted to do,
All right.
you know, I figured out that because it's very performance based, the performance major, so they're kind of training you up to be the hired gun, right? So
Yeah.
artists could come to school and then you'd audition to go play their music in their band. And for me, it's like I've always kind of had the mindset of I'd rather fail with my music doing what I want to do than succeed.
Of course. Yeah. Very
Playing
admirable.
playing like I don't want to be stuck playing jazz or some pop music. I'd
Mhm.
rather be working in my local supermarket than doing that. So I figured I came back home to Boston, and at that time, that was kind of like my, is this something I really want to do in my life? I almost just went to just a regular school, for business or computer science, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, where I probably have a lot more of a financial stability, but
Yeah.
and I ended up deciding, that I'd be absolutely miserable doing anything other than, you know, trying to do music. So
Yeah.
I end up going to Berkeley, and even my first semester at Berkeley was kind of rough for me because I, come from a rock and roll background. I started playing guitar when I was 14, almost 15, which is a little bit later, I think, than
A
what
little bit.
a
Yeah.
lot of people. So I just was just playing all the time, playing in bands. I mean, I was like professionally gigging when I was like by 15 years old. It's like playing in local bands, playing different clubs, wherever would have me. Which
Yep.
in Massachusetts, I don't know what it's like where you are, but they're really strict. If you're underage, if you're under 21, you
Yeah.
can't play in a lot of places with alcohol. So, but I play wherever they would let me,
Yeah.
and so it's like I never really learned. I mean, I knew theory, but I wasn't literate. I never really spent the time I should have like learning to
Yeah.
read
Yeah.
music. So when I got to Berkeley, Berkeley was very like, all right, like you can play, so we'll let you in here because you understand what you're doing, you can play, but we're not going to slow things down for you. So you better figure out how to read
Yeah.
fast because we're not waiting for you. So that was kind of like the make it or break it moment for me. And so I really kind of buckled down and kind of develop the mindset of if I have to work 3 times harder than the person next to me to get the same
Mhm.
result, then so be it. I'll
Yeah.
I'll work everyone if I can. And then from there, I mean, I had my band, the Ben Cote band at that time, which formed right around the time I started at Berkeley, and I was probably gigging 3 or 4 times a week every week with that band, and we'd play anywhere. So even if we weren't getting paid back then, we just wanted to play and just get the
Mhm.
experience and just build up the networking with the local scene. I got picked up by some other nationally touring bands when I was a student as well. I got to tour around the states a little bit while I was still a student.
Yeah.
And then I graduated in 2018. And then right after I graduated, Berkeley asked me to come back and teach. So I did that for a couple of years part time for the summer programs, and then they had a more of an administrative full time gig open up, so I applied for that. So now I'm the senior coordinator of the guitar department there. So that keeps me busy, and
Yeah.
kind of gives me a good kind of groundwork to be able to still go out and tour my band
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and still be to have health insurance and all
No, I know
that.
what you
So
mean. Yeah, yeah. That's seriously impressive though for someone of your age to have a job like I'm from Ireland originally. I live in Scotland now, so I'm in Scotland just now, but I'm from Ireland, and like I never went to college or I have no qualifications in any way, shape, or form in anything at all, like not music related or otherwise. But like I know Berkeley, and like it's a hell of a thing to be able to say that you work for Berkeley in such a role at the age you are. So that's hats off to you. That's absolutely amazing. Um, was that like if that hadn't come around though, what was your plan going to be, or has that really
well,
affected what the plan was going to be anyway?
uh I guess to an extent. I mean, I was teaching on my own, like
Mm,
even when I was still a student at Berkeley, I was teaching privately on my own. I was working at, I pumped gas for years. Working at a gas station pumping gas. I was working in the produce department of a local grocery store, and
mm-hmm.
then I was just doing whatever I could to to make ends meet while I was still gigging and teaching. So I kind of had the musician side of
Yeah,
teaching and gigging, and then it's like, all right, well, if I have to work some day jobs on top of that, it's like, well, that's
so be it. It's just the way of
nothing
it.
wrong with that. So I was
No,
doing that, and then but luckily I was very fortunate, right when I graduated, that Berkeley asked me to come back and work for them. So that definitely made me, and I really kind of looked at that as saying, all right, this is a great opportunity to kind of further myself in the music industry as being part of Berkeley, like in that role,
yeah,
but also have just kind of that that stronger footing to say, all right, it's like now my day job is still in music, right? So it's like I'm
yeah,
still, I have a guitar and an amp right next to me in my office every day, and I really don't take that for granted, and I can still go out, you know, release albums, play gigs,
yeah,
and do do all those aspects of my career as well. Of course, COVID, came in
yeah,
right, about a year into to when I was working for Berkeley, and that changed things a lot as well. But I try to look at every. I feel like that there's an opportunity in every challenge. It might not be a very big opportunity depending on the challenge, but I feel like there's
no, sure
always
enough.
always there's always some sort of a way out of a bad
Yeah,
situation. And,
absolutely.
so during COVID, that hit, I think it was like March 2020, right around then.
It was it.
Yeah, I got furloughed. I mean, I know a lot of people at Berkeley got furloughed for the duration. I was, almost a year, and at that point, it's like, all right, I can't gig, because everything's shut down. There really wasn't too much to do. So that's when I started doing Instagram live streams and building up my social media. Because at that point, at the beginning, it was almost like therapeutic for me, because it was like I could
Yeah,
do these live streams. Still kind of, it wasn't quite the same as playing a concert, but it
yeah,
was the closest I could get at the time. And but then all of a sudden, things started to take off a little bit with social media. And at the
yeah,
time, I had no interest or no intention of being an Instagram guitarist, but I found pretty quickly it's like on an Instagram live stream, you can actually interact with people. They can, they can comment something like, "Hey, can you show me how to play the riff to Round and Round by Rat?" And you'd be like, "Yeah, sure, you do
yeah,
this." It's E major to E minor seven. And then I kind of started building a little bit of a relationship with the followers I did have, which was maybe 1,000 at the time. But
yeah.
then it kind of started bumping up a little bit, and part of it too was did to an extent level the playing field a little bit. It's like it didn't
Mm,
matter if you were a nobody like me or if you're a Slash. It's like no one's out touring right now. It's like no one has that. So it kind of had a little
yeah,
bit of that and it made everything on the same playing field to an extent. so I really started kind of pushing my social media and working really hard on that content. And then the thing that really I think kicked me off with Instagram, unfortunately, was when Eddie Van Halen passed. Because as soon as that happened, whenever an artist like that passes away, all of a sudden everything they become very mainstream. For
Yeah,
whether it's a week, a month, because everyone's talking about him. So everything that
yeah,
I've been doing since I was like 14 years old, all of a sudden, that's what everyone wanted to hear. So I went from having like maybe 2,000 followers to like 10,000, like,
yeah,
in a week. And then from there, like 20,000 and then it just started building and building. And then I was able to kind of, keep that momentum going. And then from there, that opened up so many. And I always tell people, it's like, my Instagram has done more for my career than any gig I've ever played.
it's
It's like
crazy,
it's
isn't
like
it?
oh yeah, because I mean I got a lot of a lot of great opportunities to work with a lot of gear brands,
Hmm.
and just to be able to meet and interact with a lot of my heroes,
Yeah,
that or started following me and reached out to me, and it was just really, it's kind of a bizarre thing. It's like I can reach all these people from just staying like sitting down in my apartment rather than
yeah,
having to go on tour. And it's kind of, it just I feel like the music industry is just, I mean, it has been for a while now, but especially COVID magnified it to really be just kind of like this wild west right now, where I think everyone's still trying to figure out how to navigate, the world of, you have streaming that kind of really turned the record industry on upside
yeah,
down. And then now you have, the social media side of it that's really affecting the live performance
yeah,
industry side of it. And it's just try to take advantage of, whatever opportunities I can get, and just
yeah.
use whatever tools that are available to me.
I know. I totally agree with you. I talk about this all the time that like the world is such a small place nowadays. Like you're in Boston, I'm in. I always describe this little studio as like a fancy shed in my garden, and this is part of my job. Part of my job is to speak to people in my shed about Van Halen. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy that exists, and it's because the world is such a small place nowadays. And that's a really interesting point that you've brought up. That all of a sudden, all of us are on the same playing field. Slash was trying to figure out how to stream from his phone. Like while we were trying to figure out how to stream from our phones and how to deal with all of a sudden having a weekend and like not being out gigging 4 or 5 times a
Mhm.
week and how to get that same sort of buzz and how to keep sane and like it's and everybody went through it. Absolutely everybody. But like I was only speaking about this afternoon, and the one thing I did say was that there is, if there was a silver line to be taken from it, not that I'd ever want to go through it again. I don't think anybody would, but of course no one would want to. But like if there was a silver line to be taken from it, is that the world is a smaller place. People are more accessible. Like I like you're a rock star in my eyes. Do you know what I mean? You're one of today's rock stars, and I managed to get a hold of you.
I appreciate
You're
that.
essentially, but no, do you know what I mean? But you're essentially like you're taking over from where Eddie Van Halen left off, and I managed to get a hold
Well,
of
I,
you.
I,
No,
I don't know about that.
in
You're
like
being really
in
generous.
no, I know, but not in terms of ability, and that is not a slight on you in any way, shape, or form. I think we can all just agree that Eddie Van Halen was just the best there'll ever be. But in terms of taking a place as like a modern day rock star, that like I can just text you, like literally, I used my phone to send you a message, and you got it, and you're this big rock star, or anyone else is like I can like I've been texting Phil X, for example, to try and get Phil X on the podcast. And now I don't know if he's seen the messages, but I still have that direct line to him because the world is that little bit smaller. And because of COVID, um, these people navigated over to like running their own social media and doing things on their own social media, and therefore gave us, the fans, the access to them that we never, ever, ever would have had only for that. So it is a bit of a weird time that we're living in, and it's kind of yeah, it is. It's weird, but there is a silver line to be taken from it, and I think that's one of them, to be honest. So you mentioned there that by doing this, by like with your big Instagram following, your TikTok following, your social media and all that, it sort of opened doors that maybe wouldn't have been open for you beforehand.
Oh,
Why
yeah.
don't you talk about that a bit? So what sort of doors is that opened for you?
Well, I mean, I'm endorsed by some of my favorite brands in the world, like Gibson and Kramer. Now I work with them. Ernie Ball, Jim Dunlop. I mean, I really am very blessed,
Yeah,
to be able to be endorsed by a lot of these brands. I've also got to work with some newer brands like Iconic Guitar. They're based out in Southern California. That a
cool.
couple years ago they reached out to me, and because at the time, and a lot of it too is a lot of these companies were, trying to, especially during COVID, were trying to build up their social media. So a lot
Of
of
course,
times they
yeah,
would turn to artists that were already somewhat established on
yeah,
Instagram and TikTok, and then they want to work with them that way. But yeah, I'm actually just we were talking about it before before we went recording this. The Kramer guitar, the '84. I was just unboxing.
yeah.
It's like I'm very blessed with being able to work with all these brands and then be able to play all this gear.
I know. It's cool, isn't it? It's so much fun. I
Oh,
always love that. That it's like, of all the things I enjoy about being a guitar teacher or being a musician as a job, is that, like, if I was a carpenter, I would need a saw and a hammer and nails and screws and all that, and they're my tools. But as a guitar player, I just need loads of guitars, and it's great. It's
right.
fantastic.
I mean, it's funny, people that aren't musicians or people that just don't live around musicians, they don't really understand that. It's
Yeah.
always the thing I hear is like, well, do you really need another guitar? It's like, well, it's like this one has
Yes.
P90s, this one has single coils, this one has a Floyd. It's like, especially for producing, because during the
Hmm.
pandemic, I got into producing and recording. My band. I do all the recording and engineering now myself.
Good
It's
man.
like you need a now. And I tell people it's like if you're a painter, and someone told you, all right, you can only paint in black and white. I mean, the the good painters can still paint in black and white and make it look amazing. But
Yeah.
if you give the painter the option, you can only paint in black and white, or you have this full color palette. You're probably going to get a better painting. When you
That's it.
have more, and I like to try to paint with music. It's like you have certain sounds for certain things,
That's
and
it.
it's part of it. But it's a
That's a
slippery
really.
slope.
Oh, it's a
It's a
very
slippery
slippery
slope.
slope.
The biggest thing on Instagram that I get comments all the time. What distortion pedal are you using? What pedal are you using to get that tone? What pedal are you using? And it's like sometimes like I'll show them. It's like I'm using this little plastic Black Star battery amp. It's like it's cool to
Oh,
have
I
the
know.
effects to further like your sound, but I feel like there's a lot of budding guitar players out there that feel like they have to rely on gear, and I'm very old school in the sense that it's like, I mean, growing up, it's like I didn't have much money. I couldn't afford like all these pedals and things, so it was just plug the guitar into the amp, and then just you got to be able to make it work just with your fingers.
Exactly.
And kind of going through that, I'm very thankful that I kind of grew up musically that way,
Yeah.
where there wasn't anything other than just me, the guitar, and an amp. And
Yes.
then it's like the pedals or the effects or the icings on the cake. But I try to tell everyone it's like learn the songs by ear. Don't read tabs. That's the other one too. I get all the time whenever I'll and well, I guess yeah. I have another comment I'll make, but I'll get to that in a minute. Like if I like
Okay.
post like a little tapping or something like that, I'll always,
Yeah.
can you send me the tabs? Can you send me the tabs for that? It's like, well, one, I don't have the tabs for that. I'm not going to sit down and write them out.
Ah,
And
exactly.
two,
Yeah.
learn it by ear. It's like, and I at Berkeley, I went through the whole thing of, I learned how to read music. I feel like most guitar players, it's kind of like the self-conscious area is, reading notated music. But,
And
I went through that, I learned how to read music, but I don't care what anyone says. I will die on this hill. I think developing your ear will get you farther, as a guitar
100%.
player in modern music. Your ear will
Yeah.
get you farther than if you want to be a classical musician, then you got to learn how to read.
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
yeah, because and it's funny because there's really at the end of the day, there's two styles. In Western music, there's you have jazz, and then everything that falls underneath the jazz umbrella, which I consider rock, blues, all that. Then you
Yeah.
have classical, and the jazz players are the ones that grew up. They know how to improvise,
Yeah.
and they are great just coming up with stuff on the moment. But I found they're always jealous of the classical musicians that you can put anything in front of them and they can just sight read it. However,
Yeah.
I've found a lot of times the classical musicians who can sight read anyone under the table are jealous of the other ones for being able to improvise.
Just pull it out of it. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree
And
with you
then
more.
the goal is to be able to do both. I definitely fall under the kind of more the improvisational side of things. But it's definitely those are the two sides, and if you can master both, then you know all the power to you because that's the
Exactly. Yeah.
goal.
Yeah. I would still struggle with sight reading. I never learned, like I said, I've got absolutely zero qualifications bar almost a diploma in sound engineering from 12 years ago. That's literally the only qualification. Other than that, I'm completely and utterly self-taught. And when I started my own teaching business, I literally learned to read on the job. Like I'd done music in school, so I understood the basics of it, and it was but it never held me back. Never held me back once. And I've still yet to this day to come up against a situation where I really, really need to be able to read. I've got an understanding, like what you were saying. If you can improvise and you have that about you that you can understand a musical situation, you don't need to be able to explain it. But if you can understand and internalize it, that's the main thing. And yeah, so I don't really know where my point is. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but yeah, for there we go. So what was even the original question? What sort of doors
I guess
has this open for you? What sort of doors is this open for you? Yeah. So I don't even know. That was a great little segue just in talking about stuff. Oh yeah, I was going to say there for those people that are asking about, oh, what pedal is this and how are you just getting all this sound? It's totally just people that are just like jealous that they're stuck or they've plateaued and they can't get to the point where they think that they should be, but you are, and they're like, oh, he can't get that sound just coming from a little Black Star amp. There's no way he can do that, but he can.
I, I, I don't know if those are the ones that are jealous. I think those are the ones that are really want to learn and really are inspired. The ones that are jealous are the ones that leave really mean comments, the haters, so to speak.
Oh,
which I get plenty of those too.
oh, do you?
Which actually is a good segue to a few minutes ago. I said, oh, I have another comment I want to make too about
Yeah.
Instagram, which is, I'll be the first to admit, a lot of my content is very gimmicky. It's like, I'll play kind of fast tapping licks and, you smile. It's like, I'm just trying to have fun. And it's a fun part
Yeah.
of my career. And there's a lot of people that seem to think that Eddie Van Halen and John Bon Jovi have like a copyright on being able to smile while playing rock music. That's the thing. It's like all the time. It's like you can't smile because Eddie Van Halen did that. You can't smile because John Bon Jovi. That's their thing. I'm like, oh, I'm
I,
sorry, I didn't realize I'm not allowed to enjoy what I do. But
I,
it's comments like that. Those are the people that, and it's almost always like some 50, 60-year-old lawyer who owns a guitar and never learned how to play it, and is just all upset that he didn't learn how
yeah.
to play the guitar. Now he's taken it out on I find it's usually like a middle-aged person that's not happy in their
Yeah.
life.
It's just because you're cool and they're not. I'm calling out every single one of those.
I don't consider myself
Oh, no, it's okay.
cool at all.
I'll say it for you, no problem. Anyone that's leaving Ben hate, or anyone that's leaving anybody hate online for no reason whatsoever, fuck off and don't be such a dick. So there
But
you go.
to say though, that's usually a good gauge of when, and I'll say this to anyone who's trying to start your social media side of your career as a musician, specifically like a rock guitar player. It's a good gauge because once you start kind of getting the nasty comments, and that's usually a good indicator. It's like, all right, you probably had a video, because for me it's like it's like clockwork. It's like I'll post a video, and then if it just gets a hit and like gets like 10,000 views in like the first hour, The
Yeah.
first comments that come in are always really supportive and people are being really nice. And then it's like a good day or two later that
Yeah.
that video is still building. It's like the later comments are the mean ones because then it's like it's getting into other people's feeds and they'll see that, oh, this has a whole bunch of views, a whole bunch of nice comments. I'm jealous. I'm
Yeah.
gonna say something, and it definitely shows that the lack of professionalism on because I'm sure everyone has scrolled through Instagram or TikTok and has seen a video of someone playing a piece of music and maybe they're a little out of tune, maybe they're a little playing out of time.
Yeah.
Why on earth would you stop and try to belittle them and
No
waste
reason.
your time? Because it's like, it's you know,
Yeah. I do.
learn it
I
and there's no reason to be negative like
no.
that. But
No reason.
it's
So yet again, just to reiterate the point, anyone doing that, fuck off and don't be such a dick. So there we go. That should be the name of the episode. Fuck off and don't be a dick. But I don't really think it would do very well. But anyway, so Ben, I know then that all this success and stuff has led to you, as I said in my, I'm gonna say opening statement, but that sounds really formal. But you know what I mean? In kind of the introduction that you went on to support some of your heroes who are also some of my heroes. People I've got here are Bret Michaels from Poison, Slash, Vince Neil from Motley Crue, Warrant, Lita Ford from The Runaways, Great White. I've not heard of Slaughter. That's a new one on me now, I have to say, and shame on me. And Steel Panther. Is that right?
yeah.
That is just cool as fuck. I remember Steel Panther when they were Metal School.
That's right. That's right. Well, because before that, even they were the Atomic Punks, or they were affiliated with the Atomic Punks. They were a Van Halen tribute band,
I didn't
and then
know that. That makes a lot of sense.
because the band Atomic Punks still exists, but they're all different members now. But I believe I might be wrong on this. I know that they were affiliated. I think they started as Atomic Punks, and
Yeah,
then I know it was Satchel and Michael Starr, and
yeah,
then I think then they became Metal School because they kind of went from being just a Van Halen tribute band, just like a hair
yeah,
metal tribute band, and then I don't know how that worked out where Atomic Punks is still going on, but with new members,
yeah.
and then then from Metal School, and they started doing their original music.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't know that because Michael Starr is more David Lee Roth than David Lee Roth is. But yeah,
Nowadays, absolutely.
yeah, nowadays, absolutely. Did you see them on America's Got Talent there recently?
I did, and it really shows that I think they're one of the bands that are really in touch with everything that's going on right now because
Yeah,
they kind of I almost want to say they're finding loopholes, but they're not really loopholes because they kind of saw that opportunity of, you know what, America's Got Talent is a huge show.
yeah,
Let's just go on. Let's go on and quote unquote compete, even though we don't care about. It's not about winning or losing for us. It's just about us,
yeah,
reaching this whole audience, and it's just they're making some really awesome moves as far as the business side of things, and
yeah.
really speaking of Steel Panther, there's another company. There's another company I've been working with. I'm endorsed by called All Pedal. They're a pedal company
Okay.
here in the States, and they're the
Oh, I
ones
know
that
what.
build the Steel. They build the
Yes.
Steel Panther pedals for them, and this is the new 1987 pedal that they
Class.
sent me a while ago, and so that's my my connection with Steel Panther.
Amazing. And what was it like then? So, what was it like opening for all of these people? Like it must have been like I can't even begin to imagine what it would be like to be like, right. Oh, hello, Mr. Slash. Do you mind if I go and play a song before you? Do you know what I mean? Like I can't even fathom what that's like. That is literally like what I was saying, that like the world is a smaller place and we're all on kind of what you were saying, that we're all on a level playing field. When I was growing up, that didn't exist. Slash was this absolute golden god that was completely and utterly untouchable, didn't exist in the same world as me. Do you know what I mean? And now all of a sudden, Ben Cote from Boston, who plays guitar on Instagram, he's supporting him. And do you know what I mean? It's weird. So I can't even fathom what that was like. But tell me what that was like, supporting some of these huge names and how it
I
came
mean, a
about.
lot of times, a lot of times you don't even really see them or interact with them. You just kind of
Oh,
go do
boo.
that, and they're very, I mean, I think, and part of it might be generational, where I think, they, like you said, they kind of grew up in an era where they were these kind of they had the mystique. So,
Yeah.
and they have accomplished so much. I don't hold anything against them, where they probably are sick of just,
Yeah.
getting harassed by, or approached by people. So a lot of times they're very to themselves, and you don't actually see them or meet them. However, Brett Michaels is the one that I opened for him. I think it was back in 2016,
Uh-huh.
up in New Hampshire in the States. They have every year. They have what's called the Laconia Bike Fest, which is one of the actually, I think it might be the oldest motorcycle festival in the United States. They've been doing it since
Okay.
like the early hundreds, and it's this
Nice.
huge thing. And then we have all these bikers from all around the country, will come up, and they did this whole concert series where it was the whole week of it. You know, they have a big name artist for every night. They had like Ted Nugent played one night, Steven Tyler, and then I was on the bill with Brett Michaels at the time,
Cool.
and actually it wasn't under the Ben Cote band. It was in another band that I was in at the time. But the good story with this one was that the night that we played, the promoter took off with all this promoter took off with all the cash and left before the bands even started. And there was two stages. There was like the main stage, and there was like the
Uh-huh.
local band stage. And the band I was in was on the national stage.
Yeah.
It was a good thing because the local stage ended up getting shut down, because as soon as the sound engineers found out that the promoter had left with the money, they all packed up and left.
No
So
way.
they're like, "Well, we're not getting paid." So the whole thing was an absolute mess. And Brett actually saved the entire show. I mean, for the national stage anyway, because he had all of his roadies run sound. But
Ah.
I mean, the whole thing got delayed, and Brett's just out hanging in the back. He had a football, just playing football in the back. Like, Brett, he's like, it's just down to earth. And I got to hang out with him and talk with him, and he was just, very outgoing, and just very humble, and just was very he's just very down to earth. And that was really cool. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And that was actually the same that show. There was a few on the bill. Like, actually, I shared a trailer with Lita Ford for that show.
Oh.
But she was kind of to herself, and to be honest, I was a little intimidated to go talk to her, so I didn't interact with her. But yeah, Slaughter. Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't heard of them. They had some hits
Yeah.
in the 80s. They had "Fly to the Angels" was like the big ballad. Then they had "Up All Night." But yeah, I'm opening for them this July, actually, and
Cool.
then the the day after them. I'm not allowed to say I'm opening for Brett Michaels. It's not in my contract, because I'm not. I'm
Right.
playing the side stage for Brett Michaels. So I want to make that. So last time I opened for him. This time I just want to make sure I'm not saying I'm opening for him. I'm playing before him on the side stage. Actually, that's the day after Slaughter. But it's funny because my wife's maiden name is Slaughter. So I always tell people, it's like, oh, everyone's gonna think the fix was in on how we got the Slaughter gig.
Wow, that is a very, very out there surname. That I've never heard the surname Slaughter before. I'm sure I would recognize Slaughter. I'm
Yeah,
sure I definitely would recognize it. Um, just when you were saying there about Brett Michaels, I remember as a kid watching the film, The Decline of Western Civilization Part Two, and Brett Michaels
yeah.
was there with the bass player that has completely and utterly escaped me. The bass player from Poison.
Bobby Dahl.
Who was it?
Bobby Dahl.
Bobby Dahl. I think that's
Bobby
who it
Dahl.
was. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's who it was, wasn't it? There was the two of them, and they were there talking, and it was just, oh, it's just again, it's this whole surreal, just like he doesn't exist in the same world. If he came to Aberdeen and drank in the same pub as me, we wouldn't be drinking the same beer. It's just a weird parallel universe that all these rock stars live in, but now they don't anymore. And oh, that's so cool. And it's so nice to know that he's so sound. Huh?
Some of them still do, because when I opened up for Vince Neil, this was down
Oh
in
yeah.
Nashville years ago, and he just stayed in his trailer the whole time. And
Oh,
we were all hanging out backstage, and then after we did our set, we're hanging out backstage. There's a few bands in the bill, and then when he was headlining, obviously, when it came time for him to headline, security came in. They kicked myself and all the other bands, we had to leave. We could not be backstage. They kicked us
Oh,
out to the front of the house just because Vince Neil didn't want anyone backstage when he walked from his trailer to the stage.
there you go,
So
Vince Neil
there's,
calling you out.
some that still live in that world, but I
Well,
guess when
fair
when
play.
you're Vince Neil, you can get away with stuff like that.
You can do what you want, exactly. Hey, Vince Neil is looking very well lately, actually. I have to say, to his credit. But yeah, well, probably the less said about Motley Crue at this moment in time is probably better. I don't want to be involved in all that, but yeah, you know yourself. Let's speak about your own band. So your own band is called the Ben Cote Band. How did that come about? What do you get up to? What's the crack?
Yeah, so I did not name it, believe it or not.
Fair enough.
But my drummer at the time named it because uh, I had one band right after I graduated high school called
Uh-huh.
Tamarius, which we did a record and we played out a lot, and that was like the one band that I thought like we were gonna make it, like
Yeah.
because we just seemed to have like, chemistry, and then the band ended up breaking up. The lead singer lives in California now. And then, so at the time, it was really just myself and the drummer of that band. And then we were just kept going through all these different bass players. Then finally, at that point, that's when I said, all right, I'm just going to start singing myself because we just can't really seem to find, someone else to do
Yep.
it the way that we want. But we kept going through all these different bass players. So it was actually my drummer at the time, Sam Mogul, that said, he's like, he's like, you're fronting the band now. He's like, and he's like, we keep changing members. It's like, why don't we just call it the Ben Cody bands? That way, because there's a
It's always going to
consistent
be you.
there.
Like, yeah.
You're the front, and then that way we don't have to worry about if we have a different bass player every week.
Yeah.
Because I tell people it's like I've been through more bass players than the Runaways at this point. So that's how it started. Then uh, and then from there, it was just there was still several iterations of the Ben Cody band. There still are. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until you know maybe 2017, 2018 where I started treating it a little bit more of the sense of kind of just like, all right, I'm going to hire the musicians that I need, and so that I'm the consistent of it, and it's I don't want to call it quite like a solo project because I try to keep that band mentality and that band
Yeah.
vibe. But it's like, I'm the ones, that's writing the songs and booking the gigs and promoting the records
Yeah.
and producing it. So it's definitely it's a lot of work. But just for what I'm trying to do right now, it's just kind of been the format that's been working for me. But we released our first album in 2016 called Type
Hmm.
Jeans and Sunglasses, and then we went through another couple lineup changes, and then our second album was called Get Your Licks In, which we had a few music videos for that, and that was the one that like on Spotify and just locally, that was the album that kind of uh, really kind of got us going in the local scene as far as being an original band.
Brilliant.
And then during the pandemic, I really got into producing and recording the band, myself because again everything was shut down.
Yeah.
So we released our 2020 album, which is titled "What the Doctor Ordered." We released it on October 6th, 2020, which we had that date planned for months, which happened to be
Imagine.
the day that Eddie
Imagine.
Van Halen passed away.
Yeah. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, so that was just a very unfortunate coincidence that I mean we had that
Yeah.
date planned for months, and then it just happened to be the same day that Eddie passed.
Yeah.
But that record, that was my first attempt to really producing the band and kind of learning as I went, and also just kind of being limited by my own technology. It's like I didn't really have that many options for mics or things like that because we were just recording it in a basement during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
look back at that record as like I listened to that. It's like, all right, this is kind of my learning experience on how to be a producer because it's like the drum sounds kind of thin. That's kind of my fault because I didn't know what I was doing miking it. But the new album that we have coming out next week, "Use It or Lose It," I'm really proud of this one on all fronts as far as the songs, the production, everything. So that's the next the next step.
The next step. Well, I'm really looking forward to hearing that. It sounds like it's a right passion project, and I hope I wish you all the best of luck with it. On that, and we're going to go back to Eddie Van Halen again. When you were saying learning about like producing and stuff, there was, after Eddie died, there was a book that came out called Running with the Devil by, what in the hell is that guy's name? Oh, it was like their manager. It's really famous. I know his,
I read the book. I don't remember the author though.
think of his
Do I
name.
have it here? Books here. I don't know if I have it on my shelf.
I keep trying to say Ted Templeman. It's not Ted Templeman.
No, but he just released a book. Actually, I bought his book. I have it on my bookshelf right here. It's next in line. I commuting in and out of Berkeley every day. I spend a lot of time in the train, so I like to read all rock stars or producers' autobiographies.
But you'll have gotten to the part then in the book. That's going to annoy me. But you'll have gotten to the part in Running with the Devil where there was like an interview with Eddie. No, it wasn't Running with the Devil at all. It was Eruption. That was a totally different book I'm thinking of. It was Eruption. Yeah, there is a book called. Yeah, there is a book called Running with the Devil by one of their old managers, but Eruption is the one that came out, and it was basically the biography of Eddie Van Halen that never happened, because it was a load of interviews compiled and stuff. And there was one where he was speaking about. There was one where he was speaking about that they had the SSL desk in 5150 and he couldn't figure out half of the stuff. So he just pulled out loads of stuff and just left it as bare bones and just used like 2 mics to record. I think it was on Van Halen 3 that he recorded that way. And like he just recorded everything with like 1 or 2 microphones and just got the sound. Literally just trial and error of like whatever he had lying around, and just that's okay. The drums sound good like that. Perfect. We'll go with that. So yeah, it can be done.
Yeah, I think on OUA 1-2 he just used 1 mic on the drums. I think
maybe it was OUA 1-2 because I know the one
but I know there were several times they 1 or 2 mics, and it was just he's like, hey, if it sounds good, then it works.
Because I think I read in Sammy Hagar's autobiography that the vocal take on Cabo Wabo was the scratch vocal that Sammy just drove in, done literally 1 take, and that was it on an SM58, and again, Cabo Wabo, one of the best vocal performances ever.
Oh yeah,
ever. Love it. I love it. I could literally like people, anyone that doesn't like Van Halen, just go to the next episode. Do you know what I mean? Sorry. I could literally nerd out about all this stuff all day, but yeah. Speaking of Van Halen nerds, now this is really nerdy. Fairfield guitar straps. So I came across them because they were making replicas, very good and very expensive, to be fair, but worth it. Guitar straps, replicas of the guitar straps that Eddie used. So for anyone that isn't as big of Eddie Van Halen nerds as myself and Ben are, Eddie back in the day built his own guitars from bits and pieces that he found, well, not that he found lying around, but bits and pieces of other guitars, and he was forever taking them apart and putting them back together. But he also made his own guitar straps that people very often overlook. And some of these straps, like there was a dog chain, there was like what's the bomber one? Is that like a seatbelt?
I have the Fairfield Guitar Company bomber one. It's actually it's in my case in the other room. And then actually segue.
Yeah.
Fairfield Guitar has the new Ben Cote signature guitar strap.
There you go. Yeah.
So
that's where I was going with that.
But yeah, bomber strap. He has the banjo strap that I know Fairfield made as well, which I think on the 5150 tour. There was several, but yeah, the bomber strap. I have that one.
Oh, cool! I was looking at I always thought the dog chain was the coolest thing in the world, and I was like, I was so close. I was so close. Only that I've got life to look after and I've got a family and stuff. I was so close because it's so cool. But listen, keep your Kramers, keep your Gibsons and your Ernie Balls. I think that is one of the coolest things going, that you've got your signature guitar strap with this guy that builds that creates these Eddie Van Halen replica straps. I think that's so cool. How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, so Lewis is awesome human being. And actually, he reached out to me when he was doing the Van Halen straps, and that's how we fished up. And I got the 78 strap that he sent to me to demo and all that. So I got that, and then shortly after that, I think it was maybe back in October or November last year, he reached out and said, "Hey, can I do a signature guitar strap for you?" I'm like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "Yes,
Of
please."
course.
So he's like, "Yeah, it's like I'd love to co-design it. If you have any ideas." And he's working with a lot of other amazing guitar players like Frankie Lindia. Actually, speaking of Atomic Punks, I believe Frankie Lindia has been playing with the Atomic Punks now, the Van
Oh, okay.
Halen tribute band. I don't know if you know him, but you can check him out. He played with David Lee Roth on David Lee Roth's last tour in like 2019.
I
So
recognize
he's
the
a
name, and I'm
really
wondering if that's where I recognize it from. Then, yeah.
yeah, he's really killer than Philip Schaus, who's playing. He's played with everyone. I think his last tour that he's been on the road with Ace Frehley. Philip Schaus, another one. So both Frankie Lydia and Philip Schaus, Fairfield's been building
Cool.
uh, the straps for. And I know Frankie because he likes Fairfield. Lewis from Fairfield, really wants it to be like he wants it to be like a real signature. It's like something that the artist is developing with him.
Yeah.
Because I know Frankie's has like a opener, for beer.
Yes.
So he told me, he's like, "Well, Ben, what do you want to do for yours?" And for me, it's like, well, it's like I didn't really want anything like leather because that's like a little too metal for me. I'm much more, I'm kind of more that just kind of feel good, neon 80s kind of person.
Yeah.
And and well, I don't even know what gave me the idea to do it, but I was watching Back to the Future and Marty McFly's skateboard, the
Yeah.
underside of it, whatever it's called.
Gotcha.
I'm not a skater. It's like a purple and yellow splatter on it.
Yeah.
So I said, why don't we just do a strap that's like Marty McFly skateboard, the purple and yellow splatter. So we it took the development period was took a little while because I know Lewis had to find the leather tips of it are yellow leather, which I guess he had to
Okay.
find
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
producer for that. But it's made out of canvas, right? Because for me, it's like I wanted to keep the price down as low as I could. Because I know a lot of my following are younger guitar players like high school age, and I know
Yeah.
when I was that age, I mean, I don't have any money now, but I really didn't have any money back then either.
Yeah.
So it's like try to keep it as affordable as and again, it's like I just wanted something that was comfortable to wear on stage and something that looked cool and just kind of had that really kind of neon, fun 80s party vibe. And it came
Cool.
out really awesome. And you can check them out on Fairfield's website, which the link is in my bio on Instagram if you want to go check out
Excellent.
the Ben Cote signature guitars. They're limited
Uh,
edition, so
Limited edition.
hurry
I'm
up
gonna
with
go and
that if
check
I
out
want.
one of those. That's so cool, man. That is so cool. I love that. Yeah. That I didn't realize that's where that design came from. I obviously missed that. Like Back to the Future is one of my favorite films. It's like if not my favorite film, but it's just I've got a DeLorean up there somewhere. You can't see it out. It's just out of shot. It's just
Oh,
above
nice.
Eddie's picture. And yeah, it's just so cool. So cool. Listen, mate, I could sit here and talk to you all day and all night, but that wouldn't serve anyone. What's next for you? What's next before we start finishing up? What's the next steps?
Well, my new album is coming out next week, June 14th.
Mm-hmm.
But next steps beyond that, about 2 weeks ago, I started production on the next album. After that, I started,
Oh wow,
writing and
you don't mess
producing.
around.
It's like uh, so growing up in Boston, Massachusetts, obviously, big Tom Brady fan, and everyone would always ask him, what's your favorite Super Bowl ring? He'd always say the next one. So for me, it's like not that I'm comparing my albums to Super Bowl rings, but for me, it's like all right. It's like as soon as I get finished with one album, it's like I just want to get working on the
Yeah.
next one and see what can I do even better on the next one. But yeah, the new album's coming out. Use It or Lose It. It's titled. It's going to be available on all streaming services and digital retailers. Um, we have the first music video is going to drop on the same day as the release. Then next month we're going to be filming a couple more music videos for a couple more of the tunes on the record, which I always love. Doing the music videos because I work with Bobby Gendron of Robbie T Films that does all of our music videos, and he's just incredibly talented cinematographer and I have a lot of fun kind of writing and trying to produce, different storylines and different locations for music videos.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be working on that as well. And yeah, just we have several shows coming up. Like I said, we're opening for Slaughter next month, as well as playing the side stage for Brett
Yeah.
Michaels
As well as not
next month.
opening for Brett Michaels yet.
Yeah, I'm not opening. I'm playing the side stage, and then we're playing a lot of other kind of semi-local, regional shows throughout the summer as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just for me. I just love to play, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to just play
Yeah.
music. Very grateful for still, just having just that love for playing music that
Yeah.
you know has
Yeah.
hasn't gone away, and it hasn't really nothing's changed for me since I was
Yeah.
like 14 years old. I just want to play music, and I just want to just want to be in a rock and roll band.
Yeah. Well, look, mate. You're well and truly on your way, and it sounds like you're literally just at the beginning and you're flying it. So I do wish you all the very best. Before we finish up, let's jump into a quick fire round of some fun questions, just like icebreakers at the very very end, just to end on a lighter note. I always say that, and I always think, Jez, the whole interview must have been really really like dark and serious if I'm saying that we're ending on a light note. But you know what I mean? Yeah, so these questions, that some of them they might be about music. I personally don't actually know. I just asked ChatGPT to give me some quick fire questions, and I kind of copy and paste them into the script. So it's going to be a learning experience for both of us, Ben. But anyway, so here we go. Here's a good one for you, right? If you could learn any skill, what would it be? Bearing in mind that you have a skill that an awful lot of the world really wishes that they have. So this is going to be a humdinger.
uh, I'm gonna stick with the American football theme, and I'd love to be able to throw a football like like a lot of those professional quarterbacks.
I would love to know what that means. We don't have
All
American
right,
football over this
American,
end of the world.
I guess I'll really simplify it and say I wish I had a more athletic skill. Keep it at that.
No, I look. I've seen American football films. I know that you throw it for like miles and stuff. And every time I see that, my back just automatically just goes out. Just be like, nah, don't you even fucking attempt it. So yeah, I get you, mate. The closest thing we have over here is rugby, but you can't throw the ball forward; it has to go backwards. So like, but that's a thing for an entirely different day altogether, and an entirely different podcast altogether. Okay, here's a bit of a classic one that I've asked a few people. What's the funniest joke that you know?
Oh, jeez, I don't even.
This one always
I'm trying to think.
this one always really seems to catch people out. And I have a feeling it's
Yeah,
because anytime anybody asks me this, I just automatically go to the really, really like inappropriate ones.
that's exactly what I'm at. Especially this day and age, it's like God, I don't need to offend the wrong, offend someone, and then I don't get canceled, man.
No, no,
uh,
no, no, no.
I don't even know. I can't even think of oh, okay, okay. Here's an old here's an old Eddie Murphy one, but it's somewhat appropriate. So there's
Go on.
well, I'm assuming you don't have to watch my language on this
No, say whatever the
this.
fuck you want. It's all good.
Yeah, there we go. All right. So there's a bear and there's a rabbit, and they're shitting in the woods,
Uh-huh.
and the bear asked the rabbit. He said, "Do you ever have do you have a problem with the shit sticking to your fur?" And the rabbit said no. So the bear wipes his ass with the rabbit. I got that from Eddie Murphy Raw.
is that is that the one where Eddie Murphy he's like wearing the full Michael Jackson get up?
Yeah, well, he did two of them. He did Delirious, where he's wearing the red one, and then Raw
Yeah,
came out like years after that. He's wearing the purple one.
that's that's really funny. That's great. That's great stuff. Right, I tell you what, let's just do one more, and this is like my favorite question to ask everybody. What celebrity would you like to fight?
Ooh, what's the word I like to fight? That's a good question.
I think it's the
Hmm.
best question that I've ever asked anybody.
Yeah, that's wow. What celebrity would I like to fight? Oh, I'm trying to think of someone that I feel like I could take in a fight.
That's
Uh,
always everybody's go-to because everyone automatically just your brain goes into like that kind of fight or flight mode because you're sort of in the situation, hypothetically, albeit, but you're still in the situation. You're like, right, okay, I have to fight someone who's really small and weak, and I have a good chance of knocking them out. But you don't have to.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, you could go one of two ways. You can either think of like a celebrity that you despise for whatever reason, again, you want to fight him. But for me, it's like I don't want to get my ass kicked. So I'm trying to think who's that's a really good question. I don't know. You stumped me on this one.
You could come at it from a different angle in that you don't even need to dislike the celebrity. You could actually like really like them, and you just think.
What the I'm coming at right now is I'm not really thinking of anyone I dislike. I guess someone really old, like Robert De Niro, maybe. I feel like I could, someone that's really old. I could probably take him.
Oh, I don't know, mate. I don't know. Robert De Niro, like he's old, but like, fuck. I tell you that. That's balls.
Yeah. I don't know.
No,
or maybe
good for you.
Who's someone I could maybe outrun in a fight?
Someone you could outrun in a fight.
Yeah, that's I don't have to beat him in a fight. I just have to be able to outrun him.
There you go. That's thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah. We'll stick with that theme.
There you go. Yeah, we'll just go the other way.
There's nothing
wrong with that. There's actually nothing wrong with that. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Oh well, that was fun. That was good fun. That was. Listen, Ben, before we go, where can anybody get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you, if they want to learn some guitar from you? I know you do guitar lessons as well. Where can people find you? What's the best way to do it?
Well, I think my strongest social front is Instagram. I mean, I'm on TikTok and I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, all that, but obviously Instagram is where I have my biggest following. So it's at the Ben Cote is my handle. And actually, the link in my bio is my link tree, which has the links to
everything,
all of the social media, as well as signing up if you want to take a private one-on-one guitar lesson with me via Zoom. You can sign up for that there. That also has links to Kramer, because I'm working with them, and has links to my signature snap with Fairfield Guitar Company, as well as Spotify, Apple Music, all of the streaming for my band, as well as our music videos and the original side of the music as well.
Yeah. So. Well, great stuff, Ben. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. I say this to people an awful lot. It's like kind of one of my like, if I was a cartoon, it would be my catchphrase. But I really mean it this time, in that I want to be you when I grow up. So it's been an absolute, genuine pleasure. Thanks so much for talking with me today.
Well, thank you for having me. It was really, really great time. Really, really honored to be on your show. So thank you.